What's good, y'all? Back at it like a crackhead. This is right after the other video. The quicker y'all left the lights on the other video, it's the quickest this video would have came out. So if it's not linked up, y'all not gonna see neither one of these videos. I'm sorry, bro. Y'all missed out on some bangers. But anyway, like I said, man, hit that like button with a damn chicken head, and let's get these subscribers up too, man. I'm trying to reach 100, trying to reach 1,000 eventually. Get me monetized, get me out to more people so I can actually build more content and get y'all get more still popping. You feel me? So then I'll be getting that little YouTube check, and I'll be straight. But nah, all right. That being said, man, let's get into the video right where we left off, I think.
So she opened her car door, she stepped outside, she stood up, she turned, and she looked down the road in the direction it turned to the right towards the waterfall, and she froze because there was something standing right in the middle of the road that her brain simply couldn't process. She wanted to turn and run. She wanted to scream for help, but she couldn't. She was just frozen with fear, staring at this thing in the middle of the road. And then seconds later, this thing that she saw in the road began moving toward her. Around 3:30 p.m.
Oh, I would have took off. Oh, I would have jumped in the driver's seat, bro. You on your own. Kai, you on your own. Bro, I'm not staying. I'm not staying. I might would have been scared. No kids out.
That day, Julian's mother, who was at the house, realized her son had still not come back from his picnic. And this was very unlike him. He was extremely punctual. And so she stepped out onto the front porch to wait for him. But after waiting on the front porch for 30 minutes and him not showing up again, she got really concerned. And so she left the porch and went down onto their driveway, and their driveway extended right up to the main road that ran along the front of the house. And when she reached the top of her driveway, she just turned and watched down the main road, waiting for her son to come back. Because in order to get to the waterfall, you had to get on this main road and then turn onto that dirt road that was a little ways down this main road. And so she's just standing there looking down the road, waiting for her son, but he's still not coming out of that dirt road. And as she's looking in this direction, she happens to glance along the chain link fence that ran along the front of her property. And she noticed there was a plastic bottle that had been jammed through one of the chain links. And so she decided she would just go over and see what it was, because it didn't make any sense that there would be a bottle in her fence. And so she walks over, she pulls the bottle out of the fence, and she realizes there is a tightly rolled piece of paper that's inside of it.
Oh, they put his ass for ransom. Damn! Put in the comments your ransom amount. Like, how much do you think your parents will spend to get you back? I'm pretty sure you'll be priceless, but let's make it fun in the comments. Put your comments down below. You feel me?
The bottle. And so she unscrews the cap, she turns the bottle over, and she pours this little piece of paper out. She unfurls the piece of paper and sees there's writing on it. And as she's reading it, her heart starts to race and she covers her mouth. This note was clearly intended for her to read, or someone in the family to read that day. Damn. Because it was about what happened to Julian and Carolyn that day. The note, which was covered in all these strange satanic symbols and was barely understandable because the grammar and spelling was so terrible, it generally communicated that Julian and Carolyn, who they called the boy and the girl, had been kidnapped. And so long as the family did not contact police, they, the boy and the girl, Julian and Carolyn, would be returned. It didn't really specify what they were going to do to them, and there was no ransom. It basically just said, you better not tell police or else. Well, Julian...
They trying to take y'all land. They trying to take y'all land without even paying shit. They trying to rob y'all ass. They ain't finna push this for ransom. They finna take y'all damn house. Somebody called me.
Julian's mother was terrified. She had no idea what to do, and despite this threat of some sort of harm to her children, to her family, if she went to police, she still called the police. And so the police, they came out to her property, they inspected the note, and right away, they noticed at the bottom of the note, it was signed with the initials ONA. And so those initials, combined with these strange satanic symbols all over it, led police to discover who ONA was. ONA was a cult. It was the Order of Nine Angles, and they are a self-professed satanic cult that operates primarily in
Y'all call yourself the Nine Angles? I mean, nine, I can understand the nine, but angles? They call themselves the Nine Angles. The Nine Angles. What the fuck is you talking about, bro? What the fuck is we talking about now? Nine Angles? Let me stop before they come after me.
Europe, but also has chapters in the United States, in Canada, in Russia, and also in Australia. This
You disrespected our name. We Nine Angle. Blah, blah, blah. Start speaking gibberish.
cult believes that Christians are the enemy of the world and they need to be destroyed in order to institute a militaristic new world order they called the Imperium. And if that wasn't frightening enough, this cult openly advocates for, and apparently practices, human sacrifice. They have come out and said the people they kill in these sacrifices are people they consider lesser thans, basically the bad people of society. And if you are an ONA cult member, then who better to sacrifice than Julian and Carolyn, two devout Christians, and so two clear enemies of the ONA. Now, at first, when the police saw this note and kind of put this together, they're thinking, this has got to be a prank. I mean, Carolyn and Julian have only been gone for a couple of hours at this point, and all we have is this note in a bottle stuck into the fence. This does not seem like some huge...
Bro, that shit don't make no sense. So you just kill niggas just so y'all can kill niggas so y'all can complete y'all goal over time.
Conspiracy of a cult coming in here and snatching these kids to commit some human sacrifice. But when Carolyn's parents found out about this note and how they were still missing, they would tell the police, 10 days ago, we received a letter in the mail that had strange satanic symbols all over it, and it really didn't make any sense. It basically was threatening them not to go to police, but 10 days ago, they had no reason to go to police, and so they just didn't really understand why they received this message or who had sent it, and so they had just kind of dismissed it and not told anyone. But now, with these two notes looking nearly identical, it seemed fairly obvious that whether it was the ONA or some other person or group, whoever was behind the kidnapping of Julian and Carolyn had clearly been watching both of their properties prior to the attack, which meant this was likely a more sophisticated kidnapping than it seemed. So that evening, the police launched this huge air and land search all over Julian's family's property, but despite looking everywhere, they found no sign of the young couple. There was just nothing. And over the next few days, when still there was just no sign of Julian or Carolyn, and there was no more word coming in from ONA, there were no more bottles stuck in fences or stuck in mailboxes, the police began to prepare for the worst. Then something totally unexpected happened. On March 11th, so 7 days after Carolyn and Julian went missing, a farmer was driving along this winding back road up in the mountains right near Alpine National.
Oh, please don't tell me he found their bodies. Please don't tell me that. Cause then it's like what I said last time. Why, like, tune in. Go watch that off the next video to hear what I said, but why are y'all investigating? Why? Man, y'all should have just let it ride. Okay.
Park. Alpine National Park is this very rugged, mountainous place that's about 250 miles to the north of Budgery. And so as this guy is driving along this road, which is very heavily forested on either side, he sees up ahead this young man and young woman who are barely wearing any clothes come stumbling out of the forest and kind of plop down on the side of the road. And so concerned they're hurt or they're lost or something, the farmer rolled right up next to them and he rolled his window down and asked, hey, are you guys okay? And they got up and they kind of stumbled their way over to the car and they introduced themselves as Carolyn and Julian and they pleaded for his help. And so
they tried, they left their ad. What was it on wrong turn? They got away from their ad. On God. They just didn't get the whip this time. On God.
the farmer helped them into his car and he drove them to the hospital. It wasn't long before the police in Budgery learned that Carolyn and Julian had been found and they were alive. And so very quickly they rushed up to that hospital near the national park. And when they got there, they spoke to doctors who would say, you know, Carolyn and Julian are very traumatized. They're horribly sunburned. They're covered in bug bites. They got cuts and bruises all over them, but they're okay. They're going to survive. And so the police went into Julian and Carolyn's room, and at first, you know, they just talked to them for a couple of minutes to really see that they were okay. And after feeling pretty confident that they were, they said, look, you know, I don't mean to just jump right into the trauma you've just experienced, but we really need any information you can give us about what just happened. Who did this to you? Who brought you out here? Because if it's ONA and they're out in the Alpine National Park, we need to know about it. We need to get out there and we need to stop them. And so Julian and Carolyn would both independently sit down and tell the police what happened to them. And so the following is the...
Oh, this happened in the U... No. It just... Bruh. That's stupid as fuck. It literally says it right here.
Combined story of these two accounts that they gave police.
Bro, don't do that, bro. You gave me chills, bro. Don't do that.
But before we get into that, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Current. Banking is one of the few industries that has yet to be... And here is the account that both Julian and Carolyn gave to police. 7 days earlier, when Julian had gotten out of the car and ran back down the road to that dead animal on the side of the road, and he had reached down to kind of get that branch out of the way to get a better look at this thing, he heard sudden movement behind him, and as he turned, he didn't have a chance to see what was behind him, but he felt something hard smash him in the back of the head, and it knocked him unconscious. When he woke up, he knew right away that a significant amount of time had passed, that he had been unconscious for what must have been several hours, because now it was dark out, and when he was struck, it was broad daylight, and he looked around him and he had no idea where he was. He was in the middle of this forest, he had no clothes on, his wrists and his ankles were tied together, and he moved around and he realized he had been tied to a tree that was right behind him. And so he's got no idea what's going on, he has no idea where he is, he's looking around, he doesn't see anyone, and then amazingly, when he looks down, right next to him, underneath some leaves, is a knife. And so he's thinking, you know, how in the world is there a knife right next to me? This almost seems like it was placed to be here for me. But either way, you know, he reaches down with his hands, he picks this knife up, and he's able to cut the restraints off of his ankles, and then he's able to cut the restraints off of his waist, and then he stands up and he's able to kind of cut off the ones on his wrist, and then he's free. And so he takes this knife, and he has no idea where...
These some dumbass kidnappers. Goofies! Dumbass kidnappers.
He's going, but he needs to get away. He doesn't know if whoever brought him here is going to come back, and so he just picks a direction and he starts running. Shortly after Julian had been struck in the back of the head after looking at that dead animal carcass, Carolyn was still sitting in the car and she was starting to get annoyed and kind of...
Homeboy who wanted to check out the dead man, you a freak, man. You literally stopped what you had to do to go check that out, bro. You was a freak, bro. No cap. Even if you got out this situation alive, bro. I don't know if you should have made it, bro. Nah, I'm just playing.
worried about Julian, and so she gets out of the car, she stands up, she turns, and she looks down the dirt road where it kind of bends off to the right, and standing in the road, maybe 10 feet away from her, is this man wearing all black. He's got a black balaclava over his face, and he's looking right at her. And so she's so scared, she just frozen to the spot, and then this guy charges her, he tackles her to the ground, and then once she's on the ground, he rips all her clothes off.
You hit a goddamn Roman Reigns tackle. Hit a Roman Reigns spear. Fuck you talking about? Goldberg.
Off, and then he binds her wrists, her ankles, he ties them together so she's hogtied, and then he puts a blindfold around her eyes. And so she's lying on the road, she can't move, she can't see anything, and she hears her attacker run off down the road. And then a couple of minutes later, she hears a car approaching, and it stops right near her, and then she hears the sound of a car door opening, someone walking up to her, and then they pick her up and they put her in the trunk of this car, they shut the trunk, and then the car kicks into gear and it starts driving away. And so for hours and hours, she lay in the trunk in this horrible.
I really don't want to know what that's like to be put in the trunk. That must be terrifying. Just be chilling waiting on your boyfriend, and you get tackled, took all your clothes off, and thrown in the trunk. That's crazy. That's traumatizing shit for real. Damn.
Position where the circulation to her wrists and to her ankles were cut off, and so she's getting shooting pain in her limbs, and it's totally uncomfortable. And then after several hours, the car eventually turns on to some really bumpy road, and then it comes to a stop. And then she hears the sound of the driver open the door. They walk around to the back of the car, the trunk pops open, and then this person pulls the blindfold off of her eyes, and she sees, even though her eyes are taking a second to adjust, that it's the man with the balaclava on, and he picks her up and he throws her on the ground. And then after he shuts the trunk, he walks over to Carolyn and he grabs her by the wrists and he begins dragging her into the woods. And so as she's being dragged, Carolyn is thinking, I'm about to be killed somewhere in the middle of the woods. There's nothing.
And that's where we're stopping. If you ain't working nowhere else, you're welcome here. Y'all share Army, man. Join the Mafia Army gang, whatever you want to call it, group, family, man. We all in this bitch together, man. You stick with me, we ride for free. We ride to the moon in the sunlight, and we doing it with glee. So look, check me out. The link to this video is gonna be in the description down below. Hope y'all enjoyed the little parts of this video. This is part 2. Part 3 will be out as soon as I get the lights up, or as soon as I feel like dropping it. If I don't get the lights and I won't, I'm gonna drop it, but it's gonna be in mint condition, you feel me? The longer I take, the better it's gonna be. I'm gonna try to make it like that. But anyway, that's the video. Hope y'all enjoyed the vid. Link to the next video gonna be on top. Bye.